Dear readers, greetings and welcome to another message from the Arcturian group. These messages are sent in love with the intention of bringing information and courage to you brave ones, who chose to incarnate on a planet suffering within a fog of negativity and falsehoods, in order to bring the light of your evolved consciousness to it. A great deal of old dense energy is rising to the surface at this time, causing many to question and even despair. Remember that what you are witnessing is the exposure of concepts, trends, beliefs, laws, activities, propaganda, and hundreds of sub-facets of the three-dimensional belief system, in order for them to be seen, recognized, eventually discarded, and risen above by a sleeping majority. There are some who live from a state of consciousness fully immersed in duality and separation, and a few of them are experiencing alignment with surfacing negative energy, allowing it to become personally theirs. This alignment in turn provides them with a false sense of permission to commit crimes and engage in activities that reflect these dense energies. This is why there has been an increase in crime in actions that represent ego and the self-serving, that accompanies a sense of separation. Many on Earth are spiritually awakening or have already awakened. Earth has entered an energetically powerful time in the ascension process, which is a divine plan that cannot be thwarted by the plotting, planning, or scheming of human minds. It was never meant that Earth be embroiled in low-resonating and false creations forever, because the manifestations of conditioned states of consciousness do not have a divine law to support, maintain, or sustain them. Because the material is a mind-formed concept of the spiritual, material formations based in beliefs of duality, separation, and two powers, have nothing to hold them in place except the personal and collective belief in them, and must eventually dissolve or change as beliefs change. As expressions of God, all are creators, and eventually everyone will awaken to this. Confusion and doubt is troubling many at this time. The world you see seems to be growing worse, not better, and the push for you to fear practically everything in your life continues to be encouraged and promoted from media sources, friends, family, and even churches. Remember, a divine plan cannot be stopped regardless of appearances, or it's not being how you imagined it would be. Trust. You have come to a place in your journey where trust is not only important, but is imperative. Trust that your higher self has a plan for you, and is bringing spiritual evolution and growth to you through the experiences you need and are prepared for, even if some of them are unpleasant. Outer activities, rites, rituals, ceremonies, etc., that meant to bring one closer to God, become obsolete once the person realizes that everything they sought through these activities is already fully present within them. Meditation is the only activity you need. Do it often without the begging, praying, and questioning that accompanies many concepts of meditation. Meditate without doing, but rather being, resting in conscious awareness of your oneness with God. Allow and acknowledge emotions of disappointment, anger, judgment, depression, etc., if they pay a visit, but do not integrate them into your consciousness through the false belief that they are personally yours. As spiritual empaths, you are experiencing the world's collective energy as well as old energy that is surfacing as the result of your own clearing process. You are tempted to believe that negative emotions need to be dealt with. The minute you deal with something, you make it into something, which is where trust must enter in. Trust that your higher self knows exactly what you need and when you need it, because it is you, the real you. Once a person chooses to evolve, the ego is no longer in charge, although it will try very hard to continue to be. Allow the process to unfold, knowing that more is going on than meets the human eye. Always remember that anything not an end of the true self is never personally yours. All air is impersonal. Say to yourself, yes, I am feeling depressed, angry, sad, hopeless, etc., but I am not these things. I am a divine being embodying all the qualities of God, and therefore these emotions, pains, etc., can only represent universal false beliefs of separation, which have no real power or law to support them. Acknowledge everything that may be arising for you at this time, without resistance or attempts to make it go away through prayers, mantras, taking drugs, switching to good thoughts, all of which simply add energy and power to the experience. These things represent separation, the belief that they are personally yours and must be eliminated. The unpleasant physical, emotional, mental, and the spiritual issues you may presently be experiencing as part of your ascension process are not, and never can be, you. Can God get depressed and angry or know anything about pain? Creations formed from conditioned states of consciousness are unknown to omnipresent divine mind, which knows only itself. You are not your physical body. You have a body just as you have an automobile, and you use your body just as you use your automobile, but you have never been or never will become your physical body. When choosing to incarnate into a lower density, one needs a material body in order to survive and function. It is difficult to stop identifying with being a physical body, because the third-dimensional belief system consists almost entirely of ideas and beliefs about human beings being a physical body. Many of the physical issues you may be experiencing at this time are because your real body, the light body, is in the process of integrating and coming more into alignment with your physical body. As you know, consciousness manifests itself, and that which is held in consciousness as truth will sooner or later manifest in some form. The problems and issues one has while on earth are not always the result of one's personal consciousness, but rather that through ignorance they have allowed the world's collective consciousness to be their state of consciousness. Because the collective holds primarily beliefs of duality and separation, individuals in alignment with it often fall victim to something not specifically in personal consciousness, something they may have never thought of or even known about. Your protection from falling victim to impersonal collective beliefs is through living your highest awareness of truth while resisting the temptation to accept common world beliefs as reality, thus making them your state of consciousness. When you live the truth, translate appearances, and simply be the light, your energy cannot align with lower resonating energies. However, because you are living on a three-dimensional planet, the energies of the collective cannot be completely avoided, but unless there is a deeper reason or some needed lesson, you will avoid the more severe aspects of it. Stand strong in your highest sense of truth, because at this time you are getting all sorts of information that simply is not true, and is geared to keep you locked into and controlled by those seeking power over. Hold truth in your heart as you go about your day, in spite of what you may hear or see, reminding yourself often that you are the manifestation of divine consciousness, embodying all the qualities of the omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient divine consciousness. There comes a point at which every serious truth seeker must make the choice to identify only with the reality of their being. Many know spiritual truth, but do not live it, because they have chosen to remain programmed by the hundreds of previous lives they lived in the energy of duality, separation, and two powers. This is why it is often very difficult to evolve beyond a certain point. It can be very frightening to give up familiar beliefs, activities, and traditions that have always worked well. When a soul is spiritually ready to evolve to a new and deeper level, but refuses to leave an outgrown state of consciousness, instead choosing to remain in a lifestyle that has become comfortable, they will get a spiritual wake-up call, some event or experience meant to shake or blast them out of their comfort zone. Wake-up calls have been and remain the beginning of real spiritual transformation and growth for many. Much that is disappearing, old traditions and some commonly accepted ways of living, is making space for new and better forms of these same things. Never resist change, for it is only through change that the higher can replace the lower of everything. New and higher forms of law, government, medicine, education, worship, ways of living that do not harm the planet and other life forms are just awaiting mankind's permission to arrive. Evolution is an ongoing process, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Once people used a horse and buggy to travel, candles for light, and believed that the earth was flat. You now have automobiles, airplanes, and electricity. These too will continue to evolve into new and better forms as consciousness evolves. Once it was believed that women were much less capable than men, but you now understand that they simply represent the two facets of one divine whole, the male aspect being the active, beer, doer, and the female aspect being the receptive, intuitive, loving. Evolution is an ongoing process that is not finished when one realizes God as self. It is a time for real introspection, a time in which every serious student of truth must look within and without prejudice, ego, or self-righteousness, honestly examine exactly what he or she still believes about absolutely everything, from the small and seemingly insignificant to what is considered important and great. Because there is no unexpressed consciousness. We are the Arcturian group.